I rescued my 15-year-old grandson from a shelter. He was broken, skeletal, covered in bruises. I took him home and raised him. 17 years later, he became a trauma surgeon. Then one night, the woman who put him there was wheeled into his ER, dying, beaten nearly to death. My grandson stood over her body with a scalpel in his hand. The backup surgeon was 45 minutes away. She had maybe 10 minutes left. He could walk away, let someone else handle it. Or he could save the person who'd abandoned him when he needed her most. My name is Joan. I am 77 years old now, and this is my story. Before we continue, please leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, and subscribe to Never Too Old channel. We're creating a community of people who know that our best chapters can happen at any age. Now, back to the story. The phone rang during my shift at the ICU. I was checking a patient's IV line when I saw Mrs. Alvarez's name on the screen. My hands went cold. I stepped into the hallway and answered. "Joan? It's Mrs. Alvarez, from Oakwood Drive in Riverside." Her voice was shaking. "Your grandson. He showed up at the youth shelter 2 nights ago. I just found out this morning from another neighbor who volunteers there. She recognized him and called me right away." The hallway tilted. I put my hand on the wall. "Which shelter?" "Hammond Street." "Joan, I'm so sorry I didn't know sooner." "It's okay. Thank you for calling." I hung up and walked straight to the supervisor's desk. Told her family emergency. She took one look at my face and nodded. I grabbed my purse and left. 3 years. I'd been waiting 3 years for this call. I got in my car and started driving. 2 hours to Riverside. My hands were shaking on the wheel. It's strange what your mind does when you're driving to something like this. You think you'll focus on the road. But instead I kept seeing Rebecca at 23, standing in my kitchen with Danny's arm around her waist. Danny seemed nice enough at first. Quiet, worked at the hardware store. He was good to her. Ethan came along 2 years later. I was in the delivery room when he was born. Danny held that baby like he was made of glass. Then Ethan turned 3, and Danny left. No fight, no warning. Just gone one morning with half the furniture and Rebecca's savings account emptied. Rebecca fell apart. She'd always been fragile. Her father died when she was 9, and she never quite recovered. Now here she was, 26 with a toddler and no husband and no money. She started drinking. Not a lot at first, just a glass of wine at night. Then 2 glasses, then a bottle. I'd come over and find Ethan in front of the TV with cereal for dinner, and Rebecca passed out on the couch. I tried to help. I brought groceries. I watched Ethan on weekends. I sat her down and said the words you're supposed to say. She'd cry and promise to do better, and she would, for a week or 2. 2 years of that. Then she met Carl. She called me all excited about this man she'd met at a bar, how charming he was, how he didn't care that she had a kid. I should have known right then, any man who says he doesn't care that you have a kid is lying. But Rebecca was so happy. I hadn't seen her smile like that since before Danny left. So I said okay, bring him by for Thanksgiving. Carl showed up in a leather jacket and boots, shook my hand too hard, called me ma'am. He had that look some men have, the kind where their eyes are always moving. Dinner was fine until Rebecca forgot his beer. She was in the kitchen helping me and he called out from the living room. She laughed and grabbed one from the fridge, brought it out to him. I followed her, watched him grab her wrist when she handed him the bottle. He smiled while he did it, but his fingers were white on her skin. "Don't forget again." Rebecca laughed like it was a joke, but her face had gone red. I pulled her aside in the kitchen after. "That man is dangerous." She looked at me like I'd slapped her. "What? No, Mom, he's just stressed." "Rebecca, you don't understand. He loves me. He's good to Ethan. I saw what he did to your wrist." She pulled her sleeve down. "That was nothing." Over the next year I started noticing things. Bruises on her arms, a yellowing one on her collarbone, she said, came from bumping into a door. Ethan got quieter. He was 7 by then, and used to chatter about dinosaurs. Now he barely spoke. I asked him once if everything was okay at home. He looked at me with these huge brown eyes and nodded, but he wouldn't look at me straight. I called Rebecca, asked her point blank if Carl was hurting them. "Mom, stop. You're being paranoid. I'm a nurse. I know what abuse looks like." Well, maybe you should focus on your patients instead of trying to ruin my relationship. She hung up on me. I tried visiting more. Every time I came over, Carl was there, sitting in the living room like a guard dog. Joan, so nice to see you. Rebecca got thinner. Ethan got quieter. By the time Ethan was 11, I was calling every week. Rebecca stopped answering. When she did pick up, she'd say they were busy. I'd ask to talk to Ethan. She'd say he was at a friend's house. Then one day she called me. Her voice was flat. We're moving to Riverside. Carl got a job there. That's 2 hours away. I know. We need a fresh start. A fresh start, that's what she called it. I drove to Riverside the day they moved in. Brought a casserole. Helped them unpack boxes. The house on Oakwood Drive was small and dark. Carl was outside the whole time smoking. I tried to talk to Rebecca in the kitchen. This isn't a fresh start. This is him isolating you. Mom, please. I see the bruises. I'm not blind. I'm happy. Can't you just be happy for me? Not when I see terror in my grandson's eyes. She flinched. Then her face went hard. You need to leave. I left. Drove home crying so hard I had to pull over twice. That night she called. Carl must have been standing right there because her voice sounded rehearsed. Mom, don't come back. We need space. Carl says you're undermining our relationship. Rebecca, please. She hung up. I drove back the next day anyway, knocked on the door. Nobody answered. Their car was in the driveway. I could see a curtain move in the front window. I stood there knocking until my knuckles hurt. The neighbor next door was watering her plants. An older woman, maybe 70, with gray hair and kind eyes. She watched me for a minute, then walked over. They're home. They just don't want to answer. I turned to look at her. She was holding the hose in one hand. I'm Joan. That's my daughter and grandson in there. She set the hose down. Mrs. Alvarez. The man she married. He's dangerous. Mrs. Alvarez looked at the house, then back at me. I've heard things through the walls. I pulled out a piece of paper and a pen from my purse, wrote down my phone number with shaking hands. If you see anything at all that worries you about that boy, please call me. She took the paper and folded it carefully. I will watch, I promise. I believed her. That was 3 years ago. Ethan was 12 then. I tried calling Rebecca after that. Her number changed. I tried visiting. No one answered. I even consulted a lawyer about grandparent visitation rights. He shook his head. Without evidence of immediate danger, courts favor parental rights. You'd need proof. So I waited. Mrs. Alvarez called twice over those 3 years. Once to say she'd seen Ethan getting out of their car, that he looked thin but okay. Once to say she'd heard shouting through the walls late at night. Each time I asked if I should call the police. Each time she said she didn't think it was enough, that it would only make things worse for Ethan. So I waited. Now it was. I pulled into the parking lot of the Hammond Street Youth Shelter almost 2 hours after Mrs. Alvarez called. The building was small and gray with a security door. I sat in my car for a minute, let myself think about what I might find inside. Then I got out and walked to the door. Inside there was a desk and a woman sitting behind it. She looked up when I came in. Can I help you? I'm here for Ethan Cooper. I'm his grandmother. She hesitated. Are you on his approved family list? I'm the only family he has who's safe. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she stood up. Let me get him. Have a seat. She walked down a hallway and disappeared. I stood in the waiting room with my purse clutched in my hands and my heart beating so hard I could feel it in my throat. Lisa came back down the hallway with a boy beside her. I knew it was Ethan, but I had to tell myself that because nothing about him looked like the child I remembered. He was skeletal, 95 pounds maybe when he should have been 140 at least. His clothes hung off him like he was wearing someone else's things. Donated, probably, from the shelter. His face. God, his face. Bruises on his arms where his sleeves rode up. A split lip that was healing badly. A yellowish bruise on his cheekbone that looked about a week old. He was walking carefully, favoring his left side. He wouldn't look at me, just stared at the floor with his shoulders hunched forward like he was trying to disappear. I sat down slowly on one of the plastic chairs, kept my voice calm even though everything inside me was screaming. Hey baby, I'm here to take you home. His voice came out rough, barely above a whisper. He'll find me. Not at my house, he won't. He stood there for a long moment. Then his face crumpled and he started crying, silent tears running down his cheeks, his whole body shaking. Can I hug you? He nodded. I stood up and wrapped my arms around him carefully. He was so thin I could feel every bone in his back. He shook harder, and I just held him, let him cry into my shoulder until his breathing slowed down. Lisa was watching us. When Ethan finally pulled away and wiped his face with his sleeve, she cleared her throat. I need to verify your relationship. Run a background check. Standard procedure. I pulled out my wallet, showed her my driver's license, the family photos I kept tucked behind my insurance card, one of Ethan as a baby, one from his 7th birthday party at my house, my nursing license. She looked at everything carefully. Then she glanced at Ethan again. His mother has legal custody. I need her permission to release him. His mother's husband put him in this condition. I kept my voice level. You want to send him back there? She looked at Ethan, at the bruises, at the way he was standing with his arms wrapped around himself. She made a decision. I can mark you as emergency kinship placement. Gives you 72 hours to file for legal custody. If you don't, I have to notify his mother. I'll have a lawyer by tomorrow morning. She nodded and went to her desk, started filling out paperwork. I sat back down next to Ethan. He was staring at his hands. Lisa brought over a stack of forms, resource sheets for therapists, hotline numbers. I signed where she told me to sign. She gave me copies of everything. While she was processing the release, I saw his intake form on her desk. The words jumped out at me. Malnutrition, multiple contusions, possible rib fractures, psychological trauma. Lisa handed me the final papers. Take care of him. I will. We walked out to my car. Ethan kept looking over his shoulder at the building like someone was going to come running out and drag him back. When we got to the car, he climbed in the passenger side and pressed himself against the door. Watched the side mirror the whole time I was starting the engine. I didn't try to make conversation, just let the silence sit between us. 20 minutes into the drive, I pulled into a pharmacy parking lot. I need to check you over when we get home. Make sure nothing needs immediate attention. That okay? He nodded without looking at me. I went inside and bought first aid supplies, antibiotic ointment, bandages, bottles of Ensure, acetaminophen. The pharmacist asked if I needed help finding anything. I said no, and paid in cash. When I got back to the car, Ethan was in the same position, watching the mirror. My house looked exactly the way I'd left it that morning. Small, 2 bedrooms, clean. The guest room had been ready for 3 years, fresh sheets on the bed, curtains I'd hung up the week after they moved to Riverside, just in case. I unlocked the door and brought him inside, showed him around. The living room, the kitchen, the bathroom across the hall from his room. This is yours. He stood in the doorway looking at the bed, the lamp on the nightstand, the window with the blue curtains. I need to look at those bruises. Can you take your shirt off? He did, pulled it over his head slowly, like even that hurt. I had to work hard to keep my face neutral. His ribs on the left side were covered in bruises, dark purple fading to green and yellow. Some fresh, some older, the pattern of someone hitting him over and over. I touched the area gently, and he sucked in a breath. Does it hurt when you breathe deep? A little. Could be cracked, but his breathing sounded steady. Nothing grinding when I pressed, just bruising, bad bruising. His arms had marks at different stages of healing. Fresh ones, weak old ones, older ones fading to yellow. I turned him around carefully. His back had scars, thin white lines across his shoulder blades, belt marks that had healed a long time ago. His shoulders had bruises shaped like fingers. He'd lost so much weight his collarbones stuck out sharp under his skin. Muscle wasted away to almost nothing. I touched his shoulder and he flinched hard, pulled away before I could say anything. Sorry. I stepped back. I'll tell you before I touch you from now on. Okay? He nodded. Wouldn't look at me. I handed him his shirt back, got the acetaminophen from the pharmacy bag. Take 2 of these, for the pain. He swallowed them dry. I got him a glass of water and he drank half of it in one go. I'm not calling the police tonight. You're safe here. Tomorrow we figure out the rest. He just stood there holding the empty glass. You hungry? Another nod. I made simple food, toast with butter, chicken noodle soup from a can. Nothing heavy. His stomach probably couldn't handle much after going without for so long. He sat at my kitchen table and ate slowly, like he'd forgotten how, or like he was afraid someone would take it away if he went too fast. Halfway through the bowl of soup he stopped, set his spoon down. Mom doesn't know I'm here. Not yet. She'll make me go back. I looked at him across the table. This child who'd been beaten and starved and was still more worried about being sent back than anything else. Over my dead body. Something in my voice must have convinced him because his shoulders dropped a little. He picked up his spoon and finished the soup. After he ate, I showed him the room again, gave him a pair of my old pajamas, too big but clean, soft from being washed 100 times, door locks from inside if you want. Bathrooms across the hall. There's soap and towels and a toothbrush in the cabinet. You need anything, I'm right next door. Just knock. He stood in the middle of the room, staring at the bed like he didn't know what to do with a space that was his. You're safe now. His eyes filled up again, but he didn't say anything. I wanted to hug him, tell him everything would be okay. But I didn't know if he wanted to be touched right now, so I just smiled at him and left, pulled the door halfway closed behind me. In my bedroom, I sat on the edge of my bed. My hands were shaking, now that it was over, now that he was here. Everything I'd been holding back for the last 2 hours hit me at once. I picked up my phone, found Rebecca's number in my contacts, the one I'd gotten through the hospital records database. My finger hovered over the call button. Not yet, not until Nathan secured custody, not until Ethan was legally mine and Carl couldn't touch him. I set the phone down and sat there in the dark, listening to the sound of the shower running across the hall, the pipes creaking, the water shutting off, footsteps, his door closing, then silence. I got up and walked quietly to his room, looked through the crack in the door. He was asleep on top of the covers, still fully dressed, still wearing his shoes, curled up on his side facing the door like he needed to see who was coming in. I left him there, went back to my room, lay down on my bed with my clothes still on, and stared at the ceiling until the sun came up. I woke up to silence. For a second I forgot why that scared me. Then I remembered. I got up and checked the guest room. Ethan was still asleep on top of the covers, still dressed, still wearing his shoes. I left him there and made coffee, called my supervisor from the kitchen. I need family medical leave, starting today. She didn't ask questions, just said okay. Then I called Nathan Brooks. He'd handled my husband's estate years ago. Nathan, I need emergency custody of my grandson. Today, he asked enough questions to understand. Told me to bring Ethan by his office at 2. Hung up. Ethan came out around 9, hair sticking up, eyes red. He stood in the doorway like he wasn't sure if he was allowed in. You hungry? He nodded. I made eggs and toast. He ate everything. That afternoon, Nathan filed the emergency custody petition. The week after I took Ethan to my doctor, Dr. Andrews had known Ethan since he was a baby. His face went tight when he saw the bruises. He examined Ethan thoroughly, took photos for the legal record, didn't push when Ethan wouldn't answer questions. At the end, he gave me a referral card. Dr. Sarah Klein, she specializes in trauma. He looked at me. He's going to need help, Joan. I know. The first therapy appointment was 3 days later. Ethan sat on Dr. Klein's couch and didn't say a word for 45 minutes. She didn't push. At the end, she told him he could come back next week if he wanted. In the car, he asked, "Do I have to go back?" "If you want to get better, yes." He looked out the window. Okay. Rebecca started calling on the 4th day. 28 times over 3 days. I didn't answer. Just listened to the voicemails. At first, she was angry. "Mom, where is he? The shelter called me. You had no right." Then desperate. "Please just tell me he's okay." Midway through, she tried a different approach. "Carl wants to explain. It's not what you think." Near the end, she gave up. "Fine, keep him then." The last voicemail was different. Her voice was empty. "I can't fight you. I can't fight anyone anymore." Like something inside her had broken all the way through. I saved every voicemail, sent them to Nathan. 2 weeks later, we had the custody hearing. I expected a fight. Rebecca was standing outside the courthouse with a woman in a suit. No Carl. She looked terrible. Thinner. A bruise on her arm barely covered by long sleeves. She wouldn't look at us. Nathan got a call before we went in. When he came back, his face was strange. She's not contesting. Rebecca's signing voluntary relinquishment of custody. I stared at him. What? She's giving him to you. Ethan went very still beside me. Inside the courtroom, the judge looked at Rebecca. Mrs. Williams, you understand you're giving up legal custody of your minor son. Her voice came out flat. Yes, Your Honor. He's better off with my mother. The judge signed the papers, granted me full legal guardianship. Walking out, Rebecca tried to come toward us. Ethan shrank back. She stopped, tears running down her face. I'm sorry. Ethan didn't say anything. Rebecca, go home. She looked at me for a long moment, then turned and walked away. That night I heard Ethan crying through the wall. I met with the prosecutor the next week, told him I wanted to press charges against Carl Williams for child abuse. He looked at the medical records, the photos, asked if Ethan would testify. He's 15 and traumatized, but yes. The prosecutor shook his head. The mother won't cooperate, won't testify. Without her corroboration, it's just the boy's word against the defendant's. Defense will say he's lying. He has scars, possibly cracked ribs, malnutrition. I believe you, but juries need more. I can offer Williams a plea deal, probation and anger management. Probation? He tortured a child for 3 years. I know. I'm sorry. Without the mother's testimony, this is the best I can do. Carl took the plea deal. 2 years probation, anger management classes, no jail time. The restraining order went through, but Carl walked out and went right back to Rebecca. I told Ethan that night, watched his face shut down. So he just gets away with it. Not forever. This goes on his record. But we both knew that wasn't enough. 2 months later, Ethan started school, sophomore year in a new district. He struggled, behind in everything. I hired a tutor. Amy was a college student, patient, kind. She came 3 times a week. Therapy was twice a week. Ethan was starting to talk more. Dr. Klein said he was making progress. The nightmares were the hardest part. Some nights I'd knock on his door. Can I come in? He'd be sitting up, shaking. I'd sit on the edge of the bed. You're not alone anymore. One night he spoke. She didn't even try to keep me. I didn't have an answer. It was true. Why? Wasn't I enough? That broke my heart. This isn't about you, baby. This is about her being broken in ways I can't fix. He wiped his face, nodded like he understood. By month 4, things were better. Ethan was putting on weight. The bruises had faded. Color was back in his face. He laughed at something on TV, asked me about work, small normal things that felt like miracles. One afternoon he mentioned wanting to be a doctor someday. You'd be good at that. He looked at me. Because I know what it's like to be broken? Because you understand pain. That makes you careful with people. He smiled, just a small one, but real. That night he called me Grandma instead of Joan. First time. I kept my face normal, then went to the bathroom and cried into a towel. 6 months after I brought him home, the school year ended. His grades had come up to B's and C's. For a kid who'd missed as much as he had, that was huge. Dr. Klein pulled me aside. He's doing remarkably well. He's resilient. He shouldn't have to be. No, but he is. Summer started. Ethan volunteered at the community garden, came home with dirt under his fingernails and stories. He was eating normally, sleeping better most nights, getting stronger. I'd watch him and think, he's going to make it. One night we sat at the kitchen table eating spaghetti. He told me about something funny at the garden. 2 old men arguing about how to stake beans. It turned into this whole thing with other gardeners taking sides. I laughed. Real laughter. He grinned. You should come visit sometime. Maybe I will. We finished dinner in comfortable silence. This was what family looked like now. Just the 2 of us. Ethan's junior year, he joined the Science Olympiad team. Came home one afternoon and told me about building a bridge out of popsicle sticks that could hold 50 pounds. His eyes lit up when he talked about it. His grades were solid now, A's and B's across the board. Senior year he started applying to colleges. pre-med track. He wrote his essay about the community garden, about learning to grow things after everything had felt dead. He never mentioned Carl, never mentioned the abuse, just wrote about tomatoes and patience and how broken soil could still produce something good. State University accepted him with a partial scholarship. I covered the rest with my retirement savings. This is what money's for. He tried to argue. I shut him down. His graduation was on a Saturday in June. I sat in the audience with all the other parents and cried through the whole ceremony. When they called his name and he walked across that stage, I thought about the skeletal 15-year-old I'd picked up from a shelter 3 years earlier, how far he'd come. He found me afterward in the parking lot, cap in his hand, gown unzipped. I wouldn't be here without you. Yes, you would. You're stronger than you know. He shook his head. We did it together. College was 2 hours away, but he came home every other weekend. I watched him transform over those 4 years. Pre-med was brutal, but he handled it, confident, strong, purpose-driven in a way that made me proud and sad at the same time. Proud because he'd made it, sad because he'd had to fight so hard to get there. The summer after his sophomore year, he volunteered at my hospital. I'd see him in the hallways in his volunteer shirt, talking to patients. He was gentle with them, calm, the kind of calm that comes from understanding what it's like to be afraid. He started shadowing doctors in the ER and surgery, asked questions constantly, absorbed everything like he was making up for lost time. Junior year he was studying for the MCAT, stressed but determined. I'd find him at my kitchen table at midnight with flashcards spread everywhere. Senior year, the medical school acceptance letter came. State University Medical School. We opened it together in my kitchen, both of us crying. Again. We went out to dinner to celebrate. Nice restaurant downtown. He raised his water glass. To Dr. Ethan Cooper. Almost. I touched my glass to his. Almost. Not without you. None of this without you. Medical school nearly broke him. First year was brutal. He called me one night after a particularly hard anatomy exam. I don't know if I can do this. Yes, you can. One day at a time. That's how we got here. He was quiet for a minute. Then, okay. Second year he found his rhythm, made friends in his study group, started to believe he belonged there. Third year he did clinical rotations, called me after his first time in an operating room. I think I found it. Surgery. I like fixing things that are broken. I heard what he wasn't saying. My heart ached and soared at the same time. Fourth year he applied for surgical residencies. Match day was in March. I retired from nursing that year at 67. 40 years was enough. I took the day off to be there with him when he opened his match letter. He opened the envelope with shaking hands, read it, looked at me. I matched. University Medical Center. I hugged him hard. Your grandfather would be so proud. Residency was 5 years of hell, 80 to 100-hour weeks. He lost weight again. Different reason this time. Not abuse. Just the grinding exhaustion of becoming a surgeon. I had more time now that I was retired. I'd bring him food in Tupperware containers, do his laundry when he came over on his rare days off. He protested. You don't have to do this. You focus on becoming a surgeon. I'll focus on keeping you fed and in clean scrubs. Second year of residency, he assisted on a major trauma case, motorcycle accident, multiple injuries, urgent surgery. He told me about it later, how his hands had been steady, how he'd known exactly what to do. The attending surgeon had complimented him after. Something clicked for him that day. Third year he told me over dinner, I want to do trauma surgery fellowship after I finish residency. Why trauma? He was quiet for a long moment. Because people come in broken, and I can put them back together. I understand what it's like to need someone to put you back together. My eyes filled. You'll be brilliant at it. He applied for fellowships his fourth year, got accepted to stay at University Medical Center for trauma surgery training, 1 more year after residency ended. When he finished his general surgery residency at 31, I threw him a small party at my house, just the 2 of us, the way we liked it. The fellowship year was intense, trauma surgery, surgical critical care, learning to work under extreme pressure with seconds to make decisions. I was 76 when he started the fellowship, 77 by the time he finished, My hair had gone completely white. I moved slower, but my mind was still sharp, and I could still make a decent pot roast. When he completed his fellowship at 32, he was offered an attending trauma surgeon position, his own position, no longer a student, a real surgeon. We had dinner at my house to celebrate. He brought flowers. Thank you for everything, for answering that call 17 years ago. You did this yourself, every single bit of it. He shook his head. We did it together. We ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then he asked the question he hadn't asked in years. You ever hear from Mom? No, not in 17 years, not since the courthouse. You think she's okay? I don't know, honey. He pushed food around his plate. I don't think about her much anymore. That's healthy. But sometimes I wonder if he's still hurting her. She made her choice. You can't save someone who won't save themselves. He nodded, changed the subject to something lighter, told me about a resident who'd nearly fainted in the operating room. We didn't know that in 2 weeks everything would change. His first week as an attending trauma surgeon, he was confident, skilled, teaching residents, saving lives, his past trauma behind him. Or so he thought. Ethan told me later what happened that night. Not right away. 3 days later, when he finally came over for dinner, and we sat at my kitchen table with cold coffee between us, he told me all of it, the way you tell someone something you need them to understand, even though it still doesn't make sense to you. It was a Tuesday. His shift started at 7 in the evening. Busy from the start. 2 car accidents. 1 gunshot wound. 1 industrial accident with a guy who'd gotten his arm caught in machinery. The kind of night where you don't sit down, don't eat. Just move from one trauma bay to the next. At 11:47 the ambulance call came in. Domestic violence victim, female, approximately 54 years old, severe beating. Ethan was in the trauma bay when the paramedics wheeled her in. She was unconscious, intubated in the field. Her face was swollen, significant facial trauma. Her abdomen was distended. The paramedic was reading off his report. Found by neighbor. Severe beating. Husband fled the scene. Police pursuing. Ethan was doing his rapid assessment. Blood pressure 80/45 and dropping. The distended abdomen meant internal bleeding. He was already thinking ruptured spleen, possible liver damage. The nurse was reading from the paramedic chart. Patient name Rebecca Cooper Williams. Ethan stopped breathing. He looked at her face. Really looked. It was swollen, bruised beyond recognition almost, but he knew. 17 years older, beaten nearly to death, but it was her, his mother. His hands were frozen on her abdomen. The nurse asked if he was okay. Dr. Rosen was running the trauma protocol, calling out orders, probable ruptured spleen, possible liver damage. She's actively bleeding out, needs operating room now. Then Dr. Rosen looked at Ethan. You're trauma attending on call, you're up. Ethan was staring at the monitors. Blood pressure 78/40, heart rate 135. She was dying right in front of him. He told me about the memories that hit him all at once. Being 15 years old, bruised and skeletal in that shelter. The courthouse where Rebecca had given him up without a fight. Her walking away, not looking back. 3 years of silence while Carl hurt him. Then he remembered his Hippocratic oath, his hand on the Bible, and he remembered something I'd said to him years ago, about understanding what it's like to need someone to put you back together. Dr. Rosen said his name. Said they could call Dr. Morrison, but he was 45 minutes out. At home. She doesn't have 45 minutes. Your call. The whole world narrowed to that moment. Ethan could have recused himself, told them he had a conflict of interest, that this was his mother and another surgeon should operate. No one would have questioned it. He could have stepped back and let someone else make the drive from home while she bled out. Part of him wanted to. The 15-year-old part. The part that was still broken. But he wasn't 15 anymore. He told Dr. Rosen to prep operating room 3. He was operating. Call anesthesia. Get 4 units of blood started for transfusion. Type and cross for 6 more. The team moved. He scrubbed in. His hands were steady. Years of training overriding everything else. The operating room team was ready. The anesthesiologist managing her vitals. He made the midline incision. Found the damage. Ruptured spleen. Grade 3 liver laceration. blood everywhere, hemoperitoneum. He worked methodically, the way he'd been trained, removed the spleen, packed the liver, controlled the bleeding, repaired vessels. His hands knew exactly what to do, even as his mind was screaming. 3.5 hours. Finally, she was stable, bleeding controlled. He told them to close her up, send her to ICU after recovery, someone notify family. He stripped off his gloves, walked out. In the scrub room, he sat down on the bench, took off his surgical cap, his mask, put his head in his hands. Dr. Rosen found him 10 minutes later, told him he'd saved her life. Beautiful surgery. Ethan said, "Yeah." Dr. Rosen said, "That was your mother." "Yeah." "You okay?" Ethan looked up. "No, but I did the right thing." Dr. Rosen said he did, then left him alone. A detective showed up while Ethan was still sitting there. Detective Pierce asked about the patient's injuries. Ethan switched into professional mode. Ruptured spleen, grade 3 liver laceration, 4 fractured ribs, extensive internal bleeding, injuries consistent with severe prolonged beating. She would have died within the hour without surgical intervention. The detective wrote it all down, said it helped their case. They'd arrested Carl Williams 2 hours ago at a motel off Highway 9. Neighbor had given them his vehicle description and plate number. State police spotted him, brought him in. He was in custody. Ethan said, "Good." The detective said they'd need a formal statement for the attempted murder charge. Attempted murder? Given the severity and the fact he fled, this wasn't a domestic dispute. This was attempted murder. Ethan nodded. After the detective left, Ethan sat there until his hands stopped shaking. It was 3:17 in the morning when he finally took out his phone. He called me. I was asleep. The phone rang twice before I answered. "Ethan? What's wrong? Are you hurt?" "No, Grandma. You need to come to the hospital." I was already getting out of bed. "I'm on my way." "What happened?" "It's Mom. She came into my ER tonight. Carl beat her nearly to death." I couldn't speak for a second. "Is she?" "I operated. She's alive. She's in ICU now." More silence. Then I said it. "You operated on her." "I almost didn't. I stood there and wanted to let her die. But you didn't." "I don't know if that makes me good or just weak. It makes you the man you chose to become. I'm proud of you. I'm on my way." I hung up, got dressed, drove to the hospital in the dark. The roads were empty at that hour. I kept thinking about Ethan standing over Rebecca's body deciding whether to save her life. When I got there, he was sitting outside the ICU, still in his scrubs. His face was pale. He looked up when he saw me coming down the hallway. I sat down next to him. Didn't say anything at first. Through the glass window I could see Rebecca, unconscious, intubated, machines beeping steadily, alive, because my grandson had saved her. "You did good," I said. He shook his head. "I don't know what I did." I took his hand. It was cold. "You did what you were trained to do. You saved a life." "She didn't save mine." "No, she didn't." We sat there in silence, watching her through the glass. This woman who'd given birth to him and then abandoned him, who he'd just spent 3.5 hours putting back together. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now we wait. See if she recovers. See what happens with Carl. We keep living our lives either way." He leaned back against the wall, closed his eyes. "I'm so tired, Grandma." "I know, honey." We sat there together, waiting for the sun to come up. 3 days after the surgery, Rebecca woke up. Ethan refused to go into her room. I went alone. She was still hooked up to machines, still had the breathing tube out but oxygen running through a nasal cannula. Her face was less swollen but covered in bruises, yellow and purple and green. She looked old, older than 54. Her eyes opened slowly, found my face, tried to focus. "Mom? You're at University Medical Center. You had surgery." She tried to remember. I could see her working through it. Then panic hit her eyes. "Carl, where's—" "In jail. He's not getting out this time." She started crying, tears running sideways into the pillow, her whole body shaking with it. "I'm sorry." "For what specifically?" "For all of it." Her voice was hoarse, broken. "For choosing him. For letting him hurt Ethan. For cutting you out. for giving Ethan up, for staying with him after, for everything. I sat there for a moment. Then I told her, "Your son saved your life." "What?" "Ethan. He's a trauma surgeon here. He was on call when they brought you in. He operated on you." Her face crumpled. No, he shouldn't have had to. But he did. He could have walked away. He didn't." She was sobbing now. Hard crying that made the machines beep faster. "I don't deserve that." "No, you don't." A week later, Detective Pierce came to talk to us. He found me and Ethan in the hospital cafeteria. Carl was being charged with attempted murder, aggravated assault, domestic violence. The detective had a strong case. Neighbor testimony, the 911 call, Ethan's medical report, crime scene photos. But the DA wanted to make the case stronger. Detective Pierce looked at Ethan. "We have the old medical records from 17 years ago. Your abuse case. The DA wants to use it to show a pattern of violence. You want me to testify about what he did to me back then? It establishes he's a habitual violent offender, makes the case much stronger, could mean the difference between 15 years and 25 years. Ethan looked at me. Your choice, honey. No one can make you." Ethan turned back to the detective. "I'll testify. I want him in prison where he belongs." "Thank you. This matters." By week 2, Rebecca was stable enough to move to a regular room. Her physical recovery was progressing. The emotional recovery was something else entirely. She asked me one afternoon if she could see Ethan. I told him that evening at my house. We were sitting in the living room. He'd come over for dinner but barely touched his food. "I don't want to see her." "Then don't. You don't owe her anything." He didn't sleep for 3 days. I could tell from the circles under his eyes. Finally he called me. "I'll go. Once. To say what I need to say." He went the next afternoon. I wasn't there for it, but he told me later what happened. He stood in the doorway, didn't go inside. Rebecca thanked him for saving her life. He said he was a doctor. It was what he did. She told him she knew she didn't deserve his forgiveness. He said she was right. She didn't. She tried to explain, said she was weak, terrified of being alone after Danny left, that Carl made her feel wanted, that by the time she saw what he really was, she was too afraid to leave. Ethan told her she wasn't alone, she had him, he was her son. She said she knew. He told her Carl hurt him for 3 years, she watched it happen, did nothing. She said she knew. Then he said the part that must have hurt the most, that at the courthouse she gave him up without even trying, like he didn't matter at all. Rebecca started crying, said he mattered, that he mattered so much, but she knew she couldn't protect him from Carl. She was too broken. I could give him what she couldn't: safety, love, a future. Ethan said that doesn't make it okay. She agreed, said she knew. He asked why she didn't leave Carl after he was gone. She said she tried. 3 times over the years, Carl always found her. The last time he broke her arm. After that she stopped trying. 17 years. 17 years she stayed with him. Ethan told her he needed her. When he was 15, scared, broken, starving, he needed his mother. I was there. She chose Carl. Rebecca said she chose survival, that she wasn't proud of it. Ethan said he couldn't forgive her, didn't know if he ever could. She said she understood. He told her she was alive. That was all he could give her. He turned to leave. She said one more thing, that she was proud of him, that she knew she had no right to say it, but that he became everything she couldn't be. Ethan stopped in the doorway, didn't turn around. "Goodbye, Mom." Then he walked out. That evening, I went to see Rebecca alone. She looked destroyed. "He hates me. He has that right." "Do you hate me? You're my daughter. I love you. But I can't forget what you did to him. Will he ever speak to me again? I don't know. That's his choice, not mine to make. What do I do now?" "You heal. You testify against Carl. You build a life without him. Alone. I'll help you get on your feet, but there are boundaries." She asked what boundaries. I told her. I'd help her find an apartment when she got discharged, get her into therapy, help her find work. But she didn't come to my house, didn't ask about Ethan unless I brought him up first, respected his space and his healing. That's fair. This isn't punishment, It's protection. For him. I understand. Thank you for not giving up on me completely. You're still my daughter, but Ethan is my priority. The trial was 2 months later. Carl had gotten himself a public defender who tried to make it about reasonable doubt, but the evidence was overwhelming. Ethan testified about the childhood abuse. He was calm, factual, devastating, showed photos from 17 years ago, medical records, told his memories in a voice that didn't shake once. Then he gave expert medical testimony about Rebecca's injuries, explained each one, the force required, the intent needed, professional, damning. Rebecca testified too, told everything, years of abuse. Her voice was quiet but she didn't cry. They played the 911 call recording, showed photos. The neighbor testified. The prosecutor was thorough. The defense lawyer tried to claim Carl was provoked, that Rebecca had said something that set him off, that it was a domestic dispute that got out of hand. The jury didn't buy it. They deliberated 4 hours, came back with guilty verdicts on all counts: attempted murder, aggravated assault, domestic violence. The sentencing hearing was a week later, 20 years in state prison. In the courtroom, Carl stared at Ethan with pure hatred. Ethan stared back, didn't flinch, not anymore. They led Carl away in handcuffs. Outside on the courthouse steps, Ethan and I stood together in the afternoon sun. It's finally over. I took his hand. It's over. Over the next 6 months, I helped Rebecca get on her feet, found her a small apartment, got her connected with a therapist who specialized in domestic violence survivors, helped her get a job at a grocery store. We had lunch once a month. The boundaries stayed firm. She asked about Ethan sometimes, but carefully. I'd tell her small, safe things, that he was doing well, that he'd saved 3 lives last week. She never pushed for more. Ethan and I kept our Sunday dinners, just the 2 of us. Rebecca never came, would never have asked. A year after the surgery, it was a Sunday evening in late spring. Ethan was helping me make dinner. It had become our ritual. He told me about his week, about a 16-year-old kid in a car accident, multiple injuries. He'd operated for 5 hours, saved the kid's life. His grandmother was in the waiting room for 8 hours. Reminded me of someone. I smiled. Did you tell her he'd be okay? I did. She cried and hugged me, thanked me for saving her boy. How did that feel? Good. Like everything comes full circle, you know? I was that scared kid once. Now I'm the one who saves them. We sat down to eat. Comfortable silence between us. Then he said it. I saw Mom last week. I looked up. You did? Ran into her at the grocery store where she works. She was stocking shelves. How was it? Awkward. She asked how I was doing. I said fine. She said therapy's helping her. I said that's good. Then I left. How did you feel? He was quiet for a moment. Okay, actually. Didn't hurt like I thought it would. Just neutral. Like seeing someone I used to know a long time ago. I watched his face. But nothing. I'm fine. I didn't push. Know when to let silence sit. Maybe someday it'll be more than that. But not yet. Maybe not ever. No timeline on these things. You okay with that? With me keeping distance from her? Honey, I'm okay with whatever you need. She's my daughter and I love her. But you're my priority. Always have been. Thank you. For everything. For that phone call, 17 years ago. For taking me in. For believing me. For never giving up. My eyes filled up. You made it easy to believe in you. He raised his water glass. To family, the kind we choose. I touched my glass to his. To family. We finished dinner in that comfortable silence, the kind that only comes with people who've been through hell together and made it out the other side. Later we washed dishes together. Easy rhythm. Him washing, me drying, talking about nothing important, his schedule next week, whether I needed anything from the store. The evening light came through the kitchen window, soft and gold. This was it. This was what love looked like when it was real. And earned and chosen. Not perfect. Not without scars, but whole in the ways that mattered. I looked at him and felt peace. So, that's my story. I'd love to hear what you think. Do you think Ethan should eventually forgive Rebecca, or he should keep his distance? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe for more stories like mine.